you all wanna be round a champion, a champion. This is me, I still on it, 'cause you all wanna be loved. Yeah, you all wanna be loved by a champion, a champion.
The controller was not going to mount inside the frame safely. It could mount inside the frame, but it's very tightly packed, and I didn't want a motor controller creating heat and sitting right against the brake. So let's take this off, and we'll show you what's going on with that. Okay, we're going to set these parts here to the side so that they're safe. And just remember, if you're ever drilling anything, make sure you come back and vacuum up your materials. I'm in the house and I have dogs, so they could eat the metal. Also, it's on this blanket here to protect the paint. If I had metal shavings, they would just get ground in and scratch it up. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so this is the bottom of the frame. As you can see, I have already pre-drilled 6 holes here in the frame, drilled and tapped. These are 1032 through screws. We'll undo something smaller. They are stainless steel, so they are more rigid. And also took the cover and re-drilled holes there, so that this cover could sit right on top with no issues. And then what we've done here is, I'm using it for a tool tray right now, is this plate I had made at a hot rod shop, and it is where the controller is going to mount. So the controller can mount on this plate here, and then set on top of the bike, kind of underneath the frame here, and then we have this cover here. You can see it is slanted, and it also vented. This will sit on top of the motor controller. The wires are going to go through 2 holes that I cut here, and I'll put rubber grommets to ensure that the wires are not being rubbed. And I'll cut 2 holes somewhere in here and here to ensure that they fall in between the framework. You have this strap across here, and this is the strap that the battery mounts onto. So the battery has to be able to thread through, you have to thread through these and then mount the battery box to this to hold it sturdy. So that's why we did screws from the inside, and what we'll do is we'll Loctite them and thread them all the way out, so that way they are acting as pretty much studs and no longer as just screws. Then we can mount the battery box in place, and we can also mount, and we can put the cover, we put this cover in place, put the controller on top, we'll thread the wires through the holes, and then we'll mount this cover on top here. Well, the only thing exposed is back here, and as you can see, this controller has a small rubber gasket on each end, so it is sealed itself by dirt and moisture. What we want to do is we want airflow to go through here and cool this off. Living in the desert here in Arizona, it's 120 degrees, and you're riding this, it's going to be really hot, and we want to keep this as cool as possible. So if you were living in a cooler climate, it might be fine to not vent it, but we are venting it. And the other thing is that this is made of aluminum, and this is made of aluminum, so it's also going to absorb some of the heat, what we call a heat sink, and dissipate it as well. So all of that has been planned appropriately so that we can then mount this down here. And that is going to be the next step, the next fabrication. So we'll thread these screws through. I have already fit this through, so we're just going to thread the screws here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this off. We're going to measure this. Then what we're going to do is mark the inside here with a marker. Okay. So now you can see I do know where I can make a hole for these brackets. So the next thing to do is we're going to cut some of this out. We're also going to cut the same exact size out of this, so that way when the two are together, we can then put a rubber grommet in there to protect the wires, and then we'll run the wires through. And then we're going to go ahead and permanently mount all this, and at this point I think we're set to where we don't need to take this part apart again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back.